We are back. Welcome, everybody. We're going to jump right in since we have a long one today. And buckle up, try to follow along here. So, we start with Anchises, the subject. Anchises had spoken, and there's the end. He draws his child and the Sibyl together, una is an adverb meaning together, into the middle of the gathering. This is accusative plural, object of in, modified by medios. Into the middle of the gatherings and the murmuring or the noisy crowd. And Nakapio normally means to seize, but you can seize a position, so he occupies or seizes a mound from which or whence he might be able, posset, to scan legera all those in front of him in a long row, longo ordina, and to discern the faces, as accusative plural for declension, of those coming. So he occupies a mound so that he can see those who are in a long row, waiting their turn to go into the world above, and he can recognize or make out their faces. Now, come, I will unfold expedium in words the Dardanian offspring. Dardanian has to do with Troy, or rather, I will unfold in words what glory next follows sequatur, the Dardanian offspring. Sequatur is in the subjunctive mood because we're looking at an indirect question. I will unfold in words what glory next follows or hereafter follows the Dardanian offspring. Continue our indirect question. What descendants maniant are waiting? What descendants of the Italian race wait their turn? And I will unfold in words the illustrious souls and those who are about to come into our name. Future active participle, accusative, plural, feminine because it modifies animos. I will unfold with words the illustrious souls and those about to come into our name. And I will teach, dokebo, you, it's a double accusative here, your fates. So sometimes you can teach an accusative and accusative. I will teach you your fates. That youth who leans on the pure spear, it's an honorary spear, holds the proximate, the next places by lot, the next places of light by lot. So Lucas here is in the genitive, third declension. He first to the ethereal breezes mixed with Italian blood rises. Silvius. So remember that Aeneas is Trojan and he comes to Italy, but he finds there an Italian race. At least one of the many races there in Italy is the Italian race, and so the Latin race, I should say, in Italy. And he makes an alliance with them, and his seed becomes mingled with them, and so that's the Italic blood that we're talking about here. So this is early descendants of Aeneas that we're talking about. He first mixed with Italian blood, rises to the ethereal airs or breezes. Silvius, an Alban name, your late offspring, whom to you in old age, late, modifying the quim, Lavinia, your wife, will bear a ducat, bear, produce in the woods a king and a parent of kings. Whence, or here in this case, from whom, our race will rule, or will be ruled, I suppose, well, its deponent. So our race will rule from Alba Longa. That's a town south of Rome. All right, we move on to the next page. Shrink that a little bit. That next one, Procus, the glory of the Trojan race, and Capys, and Numitor, and he who returns you by name, Silvius Aeneas, equally outstanding in piety and in arms, if ever he will have received Alba to be ruled. That is a future passive participle. So I'm just going to translate it, to be ruled. If ever he will receive Alba, to be ruled. So there was some difficulty at Silvius Aeneas. He came to power when he was still a child, and his regent, who was serving in his place until he could get old enough, wouldn't give up the reign, and so it took a while to get power, and so that's what that's a reference to. what youths, how much strength, it's weary, long I, accusative plural, how much strength they show, behold, aspica. And how many, I guess we're taking quanta still again, or something like, and what temples shaded umbrata by oak, by the civil oak they bear. And so what youths, what powers they show, look, and temples, and they bear temples shaded with the civil oak. All right. These, and then there's no verb, but these are names of cities, and these are people who founded these cities. So we're going to go with build or found. These found for you nomentum, Gabii, the city Fedina. These impose upon mountains the Colatinian citadels, and all these towns as well, the camp of Inuus, or Castra Inuus, Bola, Cora, Pametius. Okay, so those people are founding a bunch of towns. These then will be the names. Now they are lands without a name. But also, Mars will add himself as Martian, I guess you would say it's an adjectival form. Martian Romulus will add himself as a comrade or companion to your ancestor. So Mars Romulus will add himself as a companion to your ancestor, whom Mother Ilia of Assarakian blood, you could say Phrygian blood, will give birth to. And again, we have that same word, give birth to, right here. And we had it, I guess it was on the previous page. So, Widane, this is a sort of archaic form of Widesna. Do you see? Now this is going to introduce an indirect question. How twin crest stand on his head, and the Father himself marks him now with his own honor, a god. So the Father himself, that's Mars, marks him as a god with his own honor. And what is what is he marking him with? It's the twin crest that he has on his helmet. So do you see how the twin crests stand on his head, and the Father himself, that is Mars, marks him now as a god with his own honor? And behold, by the auspices of this one child, that famous Rome will equal its imperium, its power, to the lands. What does that mean? As many lands as there are, that's what it's going to equal its power to, you see. It's going to have domination over the whole world. A slight exaggeration, but pretty close. That famous Rome will equal its power to the lands and its courage to Olympus. So you equal an accusative to a dative. He will surround Kirkham Dobbit 7 hills for himself by means of a wall. Together at the same time. Fertile in the offspring of people. Like the Berecintian mother, turreted, is carried in Vehitur by a chariot through the Phrygian cities, happy in the birth of the gods. So the Berecintian mother is Cybele, the great mother, and she's also called the mother of the gods. And so there's an allusion to the fact that, and an allusion to the fact that she wears a crown that looks like city walls. It's a turreted crown. And so he's making a comparison here between the Phrygian mother, the great mother, whom the Romans brought over in about 206 BC to be a Roman god, brought her over from Phrygia, modern-day Turkey, brought her over, and she rode in a chariot pulled by lions, but she had this crown that would look like city walls, and she was also known as the mother of the gods. I know that doesn't make any sense because the gods all have their own origins, but she's the Mother Earth, so she sort of produces everything. At any rate, so Rome is like that. Rome has great city walls, and it's producing children like gods. Complexa, from complector, having embraced 100 offspring. So that's a deponent verb. All heaven dwellers. All holding lofty heights. So this is accusative as well, but it's the object of tenentis. to hear now, so hook is to hear now. Direct your achies. Now, achies is often a line like a battle line or any sort of line that you might draw, but it's also a line of sight. So direct your line of sight, or your, by extension, direct your twin eyes. Look at this race and your Romans. Here's Caesar. Could be this is Caesar. It's hard to tell. And I'm going to say it's here. Here's Caesar and all the offspring of Iulus. Iulus is the son of Aeneas, you see. And the Julian clan trace their lineage back to the son of Aeneas, Iulus. And of course, if you trace your lineage back to Iulus, you trace your lineage back to Aeneas. Aeneas is the son of Aphrodite. And so you trace your lineage back to Aphrodite if you are the Caesars of the Julian clan. So here, Caesar and all the progeny of Iulus. About to go, referring back to the progeny, under the great vault of the sky. Hic vir, hic est, here's the man, here he is, whom you hear very often to be promised. Promiti is infinitive passive, to you. Augustus Caesar, child of a god, because Julius Caesar was a god. You see, he wasn't a god while he was alive, but he was working on it, but he didn't quite make it. He was assassinated. That tends to get in the way. But then people saw a comet, and they said, oh, Julius Caesar became a god, and spread the story. And so then Augustus Caesar, when he finally gained all control, he began to say, yes, he was a god, and I am the son of a god. Here's the man, here he is, to whom you hear very often is promised to you, Augustus Caesar, the son of a god, who establishes the golden ages again in Latium, through fields once ruled by Saturn. Per arva, through fields quondam once regnata, modifying the fields, ruled by Saturn. All right. And he proferet, he extends, proferet, he extends power beyond the Garamantis, the Garamantes, and the Indians. The land lies beyond the stars, outside of the paths of the year and the sun, where heaven-bearing Atlas turns the vault on his shoulder, studded with burning stars. I think this is a reference to, how it wasn't until much later that they could sail south of the equator because the stars were lost to them when they sailed down there. They didn't understand what they were looking at. So, I'm not an expert on that kind of thing, but that's what it is at issue here. Okay. At the advent of this one, talking about Augustus Caesar, already now, we've seen this construction before, already now, both the Caspian kingdoms and the Maeotian earth shudder with the responses of the gods. They're getting oracles about his coming. He hasn't even gotten out of the underworld yet, but already they get oracles saying, "Oh, this guy's coming. He's going to take over." And the trembling mouths of the sevenfold Nile are alarmed, turbant. Nor did Heracles encounter so much of the earth, although, look at, you would expect that in prose that would have been at the beginning, but this is poetry. Although he transfixed or captured the bronze-footed stag, or pacified the groves of Erymanthus, and made Larina tremble with his bow. This verb here means to make tremble, obviously. To pacify, to transfix, or perhaps just capture or something like that. All right, we move along. So we just talked about Heracles. Now we're going to talk about Liber, that is Dionysus, nor Dionysus, who as victor directed his yokes by the viney reins, leading tigers from the lofty peak of Nyssa. That's where he got his name. He's the god of Nyssa, so Dionysus is his name. Liber is how the Romans knew him. So, at any rate, I hope there's a lot of place names in this section, a lot of mythological allusions, a lot of historical allusions, but I hope you were able to follow along and see. If not, feel free to shoot me a question, but I would also like to hear your comments and read your journal on this section. And then we've just got next week, we'll talk about the final exam next week and go from there.